It's me, Jules, and welcome to the Renew Show, where you'll find real knowledge for your journey. I am here with Sarah from LessofSarah, and as you noticed, I'm missing Rob and Khalif. We are having major technical difficulties in the... Oh, there's Khalif! Yay!
Hey, guys.
Major technical difficulties with Google Hangout. So we apologize for our extremely late show, but we will give you the full hour, and Khalif and I will be asking questions, and hopefully Rob can pop in. I don't know if he will be able to, but I know he'll be in there commenting. So I'm very excited to have Sarah with us tonight. I love her videos, and she is such a well-spoken woman, and I knew that I had to have her on the show from right at the beginning when we were talking about having the show. I said, oh, she has to be on. She's so good. And Khalif completely agreed with me. And so, Sarah, we're so excited to have you. If you'd like to just share a little bit about your journey, and then we will start with some questions. Again, we apologize for all our difficulties.
Hey guys, it's Sarah. So let's see, I'm 35. I'm Canadian. I live near Toronto. I have been overweight pretty much my whole life. I mean, I think, for a few weeks after I was born, I was a normal weight, and then it sort of ended after that. So I know a lot of you probably have that share that in common with me. I was used to being the fat kid, the fat teenager, the fat adult, the fat mom. My highest weight, I weighed 460 pounds. I'm 5'10" and a half. I do have a large build, but still, that's a lot of weight to carry. That was in September of last year, around the end of September of last year. And previous to that, although I had considered having weight loss surgery a number of times, I'd never really seriously looked into it. And I didn't really have a breaking point, but I just decided that I needed to do something about my situation, and I decided to have VSG, or vertical sleeve gastrectomy, weight loss surgery. And I also chose to have it in Mexico rather than have it here in Canada, which would normally be covered through insurance. So there were a lot of reasons for that, and we might talk about those later, I guess. But since my surgery, I've lost 115 pounds and 155 pounds from my highest weight about 7.5 months ago. So that's me.
That is awesome. I think one of the most interesting things about you is that you had your VSG in Mexico, and the thought of having surgery in another country had to be a little bit intimidating, but I could tell that you did a lot of research over a long period of time, and you, in one of your videos, you were talking about why you chose Mexico over having it in Canada where you live, and some of those reasons were really interesting. So if you could share that, a little bit of that with everyone.
Sure, absolutely. I didn't even know that going to Mexico was really an option until I really started researching VSG particularly, not just weight loss surgery in general. And the more I researched the type of surgeries out there, the more I was tending to think that VSG was the surgery that I really wanted to have. And I then found out that here, VSG, at least in the province that I live in, is not, it is an approved surgery. It's a surgery that can be done, but it's done at the discretion of your surgeon. You can't ask to have a VSG. It's only done in certain cases where they deem it to be medically necessary, and I really didn't fit into any of those categories. And so my choice was either to have surgery here in Canada, to go through the whole process here, and hope that I could somehow convince my surgeon to do a VSG. And then I would also have to wait. The waiting period here, depending on the center that you go to, is usually anywhere between a year and 18 months. And I was 460 pounds. I was sort of at the point where I didn't necessarily want to wait. I would have waited for the right surgery, but having a VSG particularly was really important to me for a number of reasons. And so the more research I did, I read, quite a few things on various websites and blogs about people who had surgery in Mexico, and I think everyone's first reaction is like, Mexico, what are you talking about? Mexico is, a third world country. You go there to go to resorts and drink pina coladas, not to have surgery. But the more I read about it, the more experiences I read of people's, I mean, they were all having these very, positive outcomes and all loving it. And the surgeon that I was looking into had done, I think somewhere between 700 and 1,000 VSG surgeries. And even if I had waited to have it here in Canada, I would have had a surgeon who probably had done less than 50. And that to me was kind of a no-brainer. I obviously want the surgeon that has the most experience. I won't say the best surgeon, but a surgeon that has lots of positive patient outcomes, not does a VSG surgery every once in a while. So those were kind of the big factors. And also, I run my own business, and I couldn't sort of wait to find out when I was going to have surgery and have it be in the middle of my busiest season. I literally could have tanked my whole business for the year. So strangely enough, that was also a big reason why I chose to go to Mexico. I didn't want to see all the hard work that I had done for 7 years go down the drain because of bad timing. So
right. And it seemed like, from what I saw, you were treated like a queen. You had a driver pick you up at the airport. You had like other people that were going to have their surgeries done with you, and you were walked through everything very specifically. It seemed very organized, because I had this picture in my head, and probably other people do too, like going to Mexico, nobody knows English, and you don't know where to go and what's going to happen. And it does not seem like it was like that at all. It was very organized. That's what it appeared to be.
It was, absolutely. And I mean, obviously there are many, many surgeons in Mexico that do weight loss surgeries. My surgeon was Dr. Aceves in Mexicali, and his practice is called Mexicali Bariatric. And I'd heard a number of great things about him, as well as another surgeon. And so I was kind of torn between the two, I guess. I would say my surgeon is one of the more expensive surgeons. The cost of the surgery can vary quite a bit. I chose my surgeon because of all those sort of extra things, because it was in a hospital, in a very nice private hospital, actually much nicer than any hospital I've ever been in Canada, to be honest. And it did include, a hotel stay the night before. It included 3 days in the hospital after surgery. It included getting picked up at the airport in San Diego and driven into Mexicali. And so, I mean, it really was, obviously they do quite a lot of surgeries, up to 3 surgeries a day, but it really was totally a well-oiled machine. And even I think I was surprised, even having so much information at my disposal of other people's experiences, even with my own surgeon. It almost sounded too good to be true, to be honest. But really, I had an amazing experience there, and I have, there's 3 or 4 people now who are having surgery in the next couple of months with my surgeon as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how their surgeries go as well. But yeah, I absolutely would do it again. I would do the surgery again, but I would do it in the same place, the same surgeon. I was thrilled with what I got for my money.
Now, Sarah, I have a question. You were talking about in one of your videos that many people think that there is a limit to how much weight you can realistically lose with VSG. That being the case, why did you choose VSG since you had, more than 200 pounds that you wanted to lose?
That's a really good question, to be honest, because I think there are a lot of people who have questioned me about it or made comments about it that I've read, just on internet forums and that sort of thing, or even in YouTube videos when people talk about it. And I was concerned about that for sure. And then I started going on different, blogs, websites, whatever, and reading stories of people who had lost 200 plus pounds with VSG. And off the top of my head, I can probably think of, 5 or 10 that I've even been in contact with. So my reasonings behind wanting VSG particularly, some of it was just one of those things, like I like the idea of just having a smaller stomach versus having, a gastric bypass where it's involving your intestines and all that things. There are less complications that are surgery related, to be honest, with a VSG. And I also didn't love the idea of the blind stomach that's left behind when you have a gastric bypass or RNY. My grandfather had just died from stomach cancer after suffering for quite a while, and that sort of weighed on my mind because I knew, you know, oh, okay, if that runs in my family and I have this blind pouch that can't be scoped, and it's, you know, what if something's going on in there that I don't know about? So the timing of that seemed interesting, to say the least. So the other thing really was that I felt, and I know this is, I don't know if this is going to come out the right way. I think I felt like VSG was harder. Like you had to work harder because there's no malabsorption. There's none of that. It's literally just restriction that's causing your weight loss. And so I felt like I would have to work harder to create those good habits that I would need later on when I was able to eat more, and when the surgery honeymoon period for weight loss was over, when I needed to really, you know, get serious about it, and I was the one that was controlling everything, that if I could get those good habits going now and not be able to cheat and not have those little things slide, that would help me later on. So for me, I actually wanted it to be difficult, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely.
In one of your videos, you said weight loss surgery is just a tool, and you have to work the tool. And I think that sums it up very well. Okay, we do have some questions coming in. Michael VSG says, do you think you will have plastics when you hit goal?
I wish I could say no, because I was not afraid at all of having my VSG surgery. I'm terrified of plastic surgery, but I think, you know, my goal weight is around 200 to 210 pounds. I think if you lose 250 pounds, there's no way you're going to get away without having plastic surgery, to be honest. Only because having had 2 children, my skin was already in terrible condition, to be honest. So even after the weight loss that I've had so far, there's a fairly dramatic, you know, loose skin and all of that already. And at that point, I think it's even less about your appearance. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a functional thing. It's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I find even now when I'm working out or trying to do certain things, it just gets in the way, or you get rashes and all that sort of stuff that comes with it. So I don't think I'll be able to avoid it. I'm, you know, prepared for the possibility. I expect that it's going to happen. I'm hoping sometime in 2015 maybe. But yeah, and that's another journey that I'm hoping I'll be able to document on YouTube as well for people, because I mean, obviously there are other people who do, but I think sometimes people go through the weight loss journey and then they sort of move on to a different phase, and they forget that people still want to catch up with them and see how they're doing 3, 5, 10 years out. So I really appreciate those YouTubers who stick with it, so that, you know, we can see how they're doing later on.
Well, one thing I noticed about your channel, a lot of times you see people's channel and they're like, it's primarily for them. And I would even say that about my own channel. Like, it's for, like, I use my channel to hold me accountable. And, you know, I hope that I help people in the way, or along the way. But I know that you, when you started your channel, you said that you wanted people to have a resource and somewhere to go when they're considering that. And I was thinking to myself, if I was looking into VSG surgery, I would definitely watch every single one of your videos. They're so informational, and you tell it like it is. And I think that's what people are looking for when they need a resource to go to. So I think that you definitely have a channel that people would love to learn. I mean, and even for me, who's not had surgery, I have learned so much just from watching your channel. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, speaking of that, you actually made a video talking about comparisons. You know, and this is something that I think we all do, especially those of us who are on any type of journey, and we want to get there as fast as everybody else or faster. And you know, you asked if it could be positive. You know, comparing yourself to someone. Do you have anyone that you compare yourself to? You know, and in a positive way, in a way that just kind of keeps you motivated to keep you going. I know you mentioned the True Jamaican, who I follow her, and she has a great story as well. But is there anyone that you kind of compare yourself to in a kind of positive way?
I think there were a couple people who I sort of I felt a connection with just because of, you know, either their starting weight or their story. One of them was True Jamaican, who is awesome, and also Heidi from Dee Dee's Journey. The two of them, I think, were the ones that, and for me it was hard. I really couldn't get into the real comparison thing because they're much further out than I am surgery-wise. But it still was really something that motivated me to see someone who was doing what I was trying to do and who actually got there. So True Jamaican, she's at her goal, if I'm not mistaken. So, and she's lost 200 plus pounds, I think. So to see someone actually do it is so inspiring and motivational to me. And I would hope that anyone out there, if they're seeing my journey and they're saying, oh my gosh, look at Sarah, she's lost so much, that they're doing it in a positive way, that it's motivating them rather than discouraging them, because there's a million reasons why one person loses faster than another. Most people didn't start out at 460 pounds, so that made it a little easier for me to have a big loss. I've still got 100 pounds to go. If you look at it from a percentage, you know, of your excess weight, it's not quite as impressive as it sounds. So I'm totally, you know, aware of that and totally down with that reality. I really do think that because we can't stop ourselves from comparing, we're human, we all do it. If there was someone who had the same surgery date as me that I found that, you know, started out around the same weight, I would do the same thing. I've done it with other people's channels, gone back and looked at their week, whatever, and said, ooh, how much had she lost at this point? Am I ahead or behind? To be honest, I think as long as you're not internalizing it and making it suddenly about you, it really is about that person, and keeping it there in that space that can motivate you to do better. And maybe it's, you know, contacting that person and asking them what they do if you really want to know. Maybe it's tracking your progress against that person's if it's something that just gives you a goal to work towards and keeps you motivated. Whatever motivates you, that's the important part, I think, of the journey.
Makes sense.
We have a question from Angela. What was the toughest change mentally since you've lost over 100 pounds?
Wow, that's a good question. I think the body image thing definitely is part of it. I think I might have said this in a video before, but in my mind, I don't think when I looked in the mirror, I don't think I really saw what I really looked like. And I've heard other people say that too. In my mind, I think I had this image of what I look like, and it wasn't the 460-pound Sarah. And when I look in the mirror now, I don't see the 305-pound Sarah. I see something in between. And so for a long time, I didn't see the loss because I think I was comparing it against what I thought I looked like. So that's definitely a bit of a, you know, sort of mental thing that you need to deal with. But having that loss, when someone asked me, what does it feel like to lose 150 pounds? To me, it doesn't feel like you would think 150-pound loss should feel like. I mean, yes, I realize that I've lost weight. I see the difference. I feel the difference. But sometimes I have to stop and sort of really try and appreciate what that actually means, because really my life hasn't changed that much. I've had lots of great, you know, non-scale victories. And but in your day-to-day life, I mean, I have kids, I have a business, I have a husband, you know, I have all this stuff to deal with. I don't always stop and kind of look back and go, oh, look at all this stuff that's happened. So for me, the biggest mental change has actually been trying to take time, try and do it every night before I go to bed. I think about what I've done that day. I think about, you know, any victories that I've had or places where I've fallen down or whatever. And I say to myself, this is all the great stuff that happened today or this week. How can I do better tomorrow? And that's really helped me along the way, just to kind of keep on the straight and narrow and keep trying to work towards the goals that I have.
Good. We got a question that came in from Susan, Taming the Food Beast, and she just asked, was your family supportive with your surgery and also with you having it in Mexico?
I think, to be honest, my family was incredibly supportive to the point that it actually surprised me. My husband was super supportive about me wanting to have weight loss surgery. He was totally fine with the idea of going to Mexico once I kind of explained everything to him and showed him some videos and some people's stories. I I would say, you know, my parents and my friends, they all had a little bit of concern, but once I think it was just out of ignorance. Once I explained to them everything that was going on, and they know me, and the best comment was from my best friend. I said to him, thank you for not, even if you felt it, for not saying to me before surgery, oh my God, what are you doing? Are you crazy? And he said, I would never say that to you because I know you and I know that you researched the crap out of everything, pardon my French. So once you make a decision, I know that there's no changing your mind and that you have researched every angle of it. So, and I think just because of the kind of person I am, that was how most people felt. Like if I thought that it was a good idea, it must be okay. So, but yeah, to be honest, I've been extremely lucky that almost everyone in my life has been extremely, extremely supportive of me, and that is so important. So.
And you said that you researched for like 12 to 18 months beforehand.
I did. That's kind of my thing with everything. You know, I can't plan a vacation without it taking a year and like, you know, reading up on every single thing. And I approach this the same way, to be honest. I probably watched YouTube videos. I started about 2 years ago, I would say. And that's part of the reason I wanted to make videos, is to feel like I could give back or pay it forward from all those people who had shared their journeys with me, knowingly or unknowingly. And, you know, I read things like Obesity Help and Vertical Sleeve Talk. I read blogs. I, you know, did pretty much everything that I could do, and spent hours and hours and hours researching, because that's what makes me feel better about making a decision. I went into surgery with literally no nerves, no big freak out. I was expecting it to happen, but it never came because I think I was so ready and so prepared in every aspect to have the surgery. So.
We have.
Go ahead.
All right. From Beth, 150, me, myself, and I. It's actually a good question. She asked, do you have to go down to Mexico to visit with the doctor? Actually, in the beginning, did you have to go to visit with him first and then have surgery later? And also, how do you get regular checkups?
That's a great question, actually. So no, you didn't have to go down there to consult with the doctor beforehand. I believe most surgeons in Mexico operate in the same way. So with my surgeon, obviously I can only speak for that experience, he sent quite a long sort of questionnaire. It was probably like 10 or 12 pages long that you needed to fill out, that pretty much asked about every, you know, your health history, every question you could imagine, to try and get some background. And then they do have their own rules about, you know, BMI and what surgeries they'll perform and that sort of thing. So, you know, the surgeon can obviously decide not to take you on as a patient. But they did have a very extensive kind of pre-screening questionnaire, I guess. And then the rest of your testing is actually done when you arrive in Mexico. So you go a day early. And so I had an EKG, I had a chest x-ray, I had blood and urine screening, all that stuff the day before my surgery, just to make sure that there was no underlying health issues. I also took it upon myself to go to my own doctor previously and have all that stuff done as well, just so that I knew there was nothing going on. And then once you have your surgery, I know my surgeon gave us copies of all of the testing. They gave you a fluoroscopy of your new stomach, which was kind of cool. And they also gave a surgery report. So all of that stuff went to my family doctor here. And I just follow up with my family doctor every 3 months or so and get my blood work and all that testing done. And any questions that I have, I can email the patient coordinator at my surgeon's office, and they get back to me right away and let me know. So there's been a few things I've been in contact with them about, you know, just questions about concerns that I might have, and they're great at getting back to me. So.
I think, yeah. Living Avalon, Amy, wants to know, what is your favorite NSV so far?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I think, and this isn't like a super specific one, but I think it's just getting to the point where I feel like you know, I'm obviously still overweight. So yes, I'm 5'10", but I mean, I still weigh 305 pounds. I'm not small. I'll never be small. It's cool with me. But I got to the point where I was what I call freak show fat, where you're at the mall and people are staring at you. You're at the grocery store, people are staring at you. You're eating, everyone's watching you. And there's no one in the world that doesn't feel objectified and brought down and depressed by that, right? It's not cool to be the person that the little kids are pointing and laughing at. And that was where I was at, to be honest. And so to be where I am now and to just be, fat, but like regular fat, that's a big deal to me. I feel like I'm part of regular society again in a way. Before I felt like I was like on the fringes, like people couldn't see past my weight issue. Obviously not my friends and my family and that sort of thing, but meeting new people, I could see that it was holding them back from making a connection with me. Not that I wasn't trying, because I am obviously an outgoing person, but it was a barrier to forming relationships with people even, or just living an everyday normal life. And so where I'm at now, even though it's not my final destination, it is so drastically improved. And that's really improved my kind of general outlook and my desire to go out and be social and just be part of society.
And since you were just talking about the destination, you said something that I love, and I think everyone needs to embrace this. And you said, I'm more about the journey than the destination. And I think that is golden. And every single person on a weight loss journey or even through life really needs to, take that and hold on to that, because it is true. That's, the journey it's forever. It's going to go on forever. And I think that was such an awesome thing that you said. I wrote it down because I just loved it so much.
We actually got a two-part question from Jen Johnson, and you pretty much answered the first one, but you may decide there's a little extra you can cover with it. But she asked, what has been the very best part of your weight loss journey so far? Likewise, what has been the most difficult part?
So, okay, before I answer, I do have to give Jen a shout out. Jen actually had RNY gastric bypass surgery today, this morning. And right before the show, I was actually in Toronto visiting her in the hospital. She looks great. She's doing great. I'm so excited for her. Jen is literally one of the best friends that I've made on this journey. And it's interesting that she asked this question, because that is the greatest thing. And it may sound strange to people, but the greatest thing about this journey has been the people that I've made connections with through YouTube, through Facebook, in the weight loss community. I have made lifelong friends with people. They uplift me, they amuse me, they, they're in this journey, they are my cheering section, they're my support group, they're everything to me. And that has been the most rewarding part of this journey personally. And again, as strange as it sounds, it's great to fit into, smaller jeans, and it's great to see the scale go down. But those relationships, and even the people who watch my videos or comment and say that I've inspired them, or that I've given them information that was useful, or that somehow me making videos has changed them or affected their journey, that is absolutely the most rewarding part of this, my favorite part of this journey, for sure. The hardest thing, or the most difficult thing, I think, is the mental journey, the mental aspect. I didn't really expect that. I think I'm a very self-aware person, and I thought, oh yeah, I've got this, no problem. I expected the food part of it and the exercise part of it to be really tough. And for me, it's not that tough. The tough part is all of the mental and emotional things that you go through trying to change your life, trying to go through this journey, how different things affect you at different times. And, one week it might be something that's bothering you, and the next week it's like something else, or everything happens at one time. All that stuff that happens to everybody else who's going through any change in their life happens to us as, weight loss surgery patients, or anyone who's on a weight loss journey. So that mental part of it, it really, really is the toughest part. But the great thing is that support group, those friends, they're the ones that help me through that. So.
Khalif, my feed is a little frozen, so it skipped a bunch of questions. If you could carry on.
Sure. And I'll just say for the record that Jen Johnston emailed that question in, just so people don't think that she's like snuck out of her hospital bed or something to ask that. I don't know. Okay, so it looks like the next question we have is from Corey J. Cook, and he asks, is there anything that you wish you would have done differently looking back over the last few months?
Oh, first of all, hi Corey, love you. That's tough. I would love to say no, because I'm kind of a no regrets kind of person. I wish that I had started exercising earlier. Part of that was that my surgeon really is sort of conservative when it comes to exercise. So I kind of started when I could have in the heavy exercise sense, but it could have been doing a lot more before that. So I started walking and doing a little bit of like Zumba and that sort of stuff at like 6 to 8 weeks, but I didn't really get to the gym till about 3.5 months out. I wish I had started earlier with that, not even from a weight loss point of view, just from a health point of view, just from a feeling better about myself point of view. I wish that I had started earlier, for sure, but I'm in it now.
Michael VSG asks, what is your goal?
That's a big question. What is my goal? My goal is to be healthy and happy. That's my ultimate goal. Having been pretty much morbidly obese, I would say, almost my whole life, I'm not actually that focused on the number. I think I might have said it in one of my last videos, but like if suddenly I'd like to get under 300. If suddenly I hit 299 and never lost another pound, but I was healthy and active and can do everything I wanted to do, I would be okay with that. The health part of it really is the most important part for me, because I'm used to being overweight. I'm used to being the fat chick. I'm comfortable with that. There's something scary about the kind of unknown. Like, oh, what happens if I get, under? My goal weight is under the smallest weight I've ever been since I was probably 10 years old. So there's some fear there with getting to a goal that is uncharted territory for you as an adult. And so, yeah, I'm as much as I want to get there, and I'm a very generally goal-oriented person, so I won't be happy unless I actually get there at some point. I'm not in a huge rush. I am really enjoying the journey right now, and as long as I get to the point where I am happy with myself, where I am healthy, where I can play with my kids, where I can do all the things I want to do, that's really my ultimate goal.
I think that's like the best way to look at this journey. And like I said before, you always have such great insights on, on this journey and everything. Sanctity Rapture asks, what do you think is the #1 piece of advice you would give to a new post-op?
Oh, that's a good one too. She's probably asking that because she's Jen Johnston's sister, so maybe she wants me to give Jen some advice. I think the best advice is to really pay attention to the mental part of the journey in whatever way you need to. So I think especially newly post-op, you tend to just think about how much protein do I need to get in today? How much liquid have I had? What should I be eating? Should I eat this? Can I eat that? And you focus so much on the literal food and eating part of it, and that's really important for your physical health. So I'm not saying you shouldn't focus on that, but I think it's important that if you weren't mentally prepared before surgery, you better get there quickly after surgery, because otherwise it's so easy to fall into feeling sorry for yourself, regretting what you've done, mourning, the loss of your old life and all that stuff. It will all happen if you weren't totally prepared before surgery, and of course no one's ever totally prepared, right? So I think if it means seeing a therapist, if it means seeking out a support group, if it means watching YouTube videos, if it means reaching out to somebody that you know from Facebook or that you've seen on YouTube and just saying, I'm struggling, I need help, that's really important, because I think especially at the beginning, we tend to sort of forget about that emotional and mental stuff and suffer in silence. So I've seen a lot of people who are immediately post-op making videos, and I'm sure I did the same thing too, to be honest, and all you talk about is, here's how much liquids I had, here's how much protein, here's what I'm doing for this. And they're hiding that part where they're struggling with the emotional part of it or with the mental part of it. And it's totally normal. It's normal to grieve your old life and to think, oh my God, what have I done to myself? Completely normal. So that's something that you need to share. You need to put out there. You need to do whatever it is that's going to help you deal with what a huge change it is. Not just physically, but within your entire life and your entire being, even spiritually. It's just a massive change in your life. So you need to have that support, and you need to be open and honest with people about how you're feeling.
That is good advice. And that's good advice for anybody on a weight loss journey, surgery or not, because it's amazing how mental it is, and you don't realize it until you're going through it, just how mental it is. Okay, I'll ask this question. This is the next one in my feed, so it might be out of order, but I think they're tired of hearing Khalif. So Zen Maiden 1 says, are you a binge eater? And if so, how will you manage this going forward with the VSG tool to help you?
That's a really good question, too. I am not really a binge eater, and I'm not saying that I've never, binged or what would qualify as a binge ever. I certainly have. My issue was more just crazy hunger and eating a massive quantity of food. And that was from the time I was a child. I think, in my house, it was always like big portions. And, I had an Italian grandma, and on one hand, she'd be like, you're too fat. And on the other hand, she'd be like, here, eat this. Why aren't you eating? So, and I love her, believe me, but that's just the way I grew up. And so that sort of big portion thing always stuck with me. And I've often said in videos, I feel like my full switch or my hungry switch was broken. And I never was really full, and I never was not hungry. And that caused me to overeat drastically. I wasn't really a binge eater in the sense of, planning out, what I was going to eat on a binge, or feeling like I'm depressed, I'm going to go eat, a carton of ice cream. I never did those kinds of things. And so in a way, I think I've had an easier time adjusting to my restriction with my surgery than some people do, because once that hunger went away, that solved 90% of my food issues. So while I still do have cravings from time to time, while I still have some hunger, it's not like it's completely gone. I just had a day this week when I was like hungry all day and kept thinking about food. Didn't know why that was, but I have had it easier than some people do, only because the VSG surgery really seemed to cure, I don't like to use that word, but seemed to fix what was a big part of my problem and a big part of why I continued to gain weight over the years. And so I'm hoping that as time goes on, and as that restriction in my sleeve lessens and I can eat more, that, like I said, the habits that I have now will continue on. And now, when I have a craving for something, I tend to do things like look at what I could have that would be similar in flavor but not as bad for me, and that sort of thing, substituting things. All the stuff that anyone else that's on a weight loss journey does. So for me, I really think the journey is the same. I just happen to have an extra tool in the toolbox, as Rob Reno would say, with the surgery. But the rest of it is, the same as everyone else's weight loss journey, to be honest.
All right. We have a question from, I hope I'm going to say this right, Fat and Flabulous, asks, how do you feel about the reactions you get from others?
It's funny because I don't know if it's just my circumstance right now or just the way things work, but I haven't really been in that situation yet where I walk into a room where people haven't seen me in like a year and they go, oh my gosh. I either have people that I hang out with all the time, and so those of them that know I've had surgery will usually comment and say, hey, you're looking great, or I love that outfit, or look at you, or the people that don't know that I've had surgery obviously must notice, but they don't really say anything. So I think it's just because they're uncomfortable and they don't want to point it out. And if I had lost 150 pounds and was like a size 2, they could say, oh, look how small you are. But the fact is I'm still really overweight. So I don't know if they're uncomfortable and don't really know what to say because they don't want to make it seem like I'm done losing weight. So I'm going to the National Stationery Show in New York next week. I run an invitation company, so it's a work-related thing, but I know a lot of other stationers from all over Canada and the US, and so that's really going to be the first time that I'm going to see a whole group of people that haven't seen me in a long time, and only a few of those people know that I've had surgery. So I'll have to make a video about that when I get back, about what people's reactions were and how I dealt with it. I'm very open about the fact that I've had surgery. I don't really hide it. I don't necessarily volunteer the information right away, only because sometimes I think it makes other people uncomfortable. But if someone asks me, oh, you look great, what are you doing? I mean, I'm totally open with them because I think I have no shame about having had surgery. There's nothing to hide. So.
We got a question from Zen Maiden. She asked, how much did your surgeon predict you would lose with VSG? Was it 70% of your excess weight?
My surgeon did not talk at all to any of us about how much weight he expected us to lose. I know that with my surgeon, the stat that they always throw out is 95%. Sorry. Oh, I'm going to say this wrong. I think it's the majority of their patients lose 95% of their excess weight in a year. That's not going to be me just because the amount of weight that I had to lose. But I think, that's fairly close. Now, that's not just VSG. That's gastric bypass. I think they do lap band as well. They do DS, all kinds of surgeries. He never really said anything to me in a specific way. But the one thing I'll never forget is that after my surgery, and I think it was the next day actually, came into my room and he sat down on my bed, and I remember he put his hand on my leg. And he said, your surgery was great, and he explained a bit about what had gone on in this surgery. And he looked me right in the eye and he said, this surgery is going to help you. And that's all I needed to hear from him. The only thing that I can say is when your doctor tells you, we expect you're going to lose this much, we want you to lose this much, we want you to hit this goal, this might come off the wrong way, but it really doesn't matter what they say because you can lose as much as you want. It is, there's nothing that says, oh, I had a VSG, I'm only going to lose 70% of your excess weight. I know people that have lost 100% plus of their excess weight. It really is about you, and relying on what your surgeon has to say about the tool that he gave you is sort of the wrong attitude. You want to put it on yourself. I'm going to take this journey. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to get to this goal. Forget what my surgeon says. So, yeah, for me, when I hear people talk about that, I almost find it like a challenge. Like if my surgeon said you're going to lose 70% of your excess weight, I'd be like, no, I'm not. I'm telling you, I bet you I'm going to lose 100% of my excess weight just because that's me. But as valuable as your surgeon's opinion is, you can do whatever you set your mind to. I believe that. Whatever surgery you have, even if you don't have surgery, commitment and motivation, determination, that's what's going to really determine your final outcome.
That's true. Look at Dee Dee's journey. Heidi. I mean, she's, I'm sure, blowing her doctors away because she's far exceeded what they anticipated for her. So you're right. We have, my next question is from Permission No More. Since you had to have a new way of eating for this journey, have you enforced that on your family as well?
I have not, in the sense of enforcing it. So I encourage, I don't enforce. I've always been pretty strict with my kids. I'm not super strict. I mean, yeah, I let them have ice cream once in a while. I take them to McDonald's once in a while. I especially let other people spoil them, to be honest, because then they don't ask me for it. But I try not to use food as a reward with my kids. I try not to do a lot of the things that I know affected me as a kid. I don't make them clean their plates. I don't try and make them eat things they don't like, all that sort of stuff. I try and get them to try new stuff as much as possible. So I've always sadly fed them differently than I fed myself. And maybe that was, this is deep, but maybe that was just a question of, I loved them and maybe I didn't love myself enough to treat myself that well. My husband is also overweight, not to the point that I was. Certainly he might be like 50 pounds overweight, 40 or 50, let's say. And I sort of buy healthy things, I have healthy choices, and I kind of let him do his own thing. And the reason that is because I know for myself, no one could have forced me or encouraged me or told me what to do at any point until I was ready. Right. It's not like anyone in my life, ignored the fact that I was 460 pounds. It's not like no one ever said to me, you might want to consider losing weight. But I just wasn't hearing it until I was ready, until, I was there. I was there emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I was ready for the journey. And I really think you can't push someone into it. And so I try and encourage, I try and, have the right food in the house. I don't buy junk, but at the same time, I'm going to let him do his journey his way. So.
You may be in trouble, with this next question. It's from Tina, Prairie Princess 1. And first of all, she says you're beautiful.
Thank you, Tina.
And then she says she wants to know all about your fitness and what you do in your workouts.
Okay. There was nothing in that question about kettlebells, I'm just saying. But,
I know.
So the first thing I'll say is, Tina, they have a kettlebell info sign-up sheet at my gym, and I signed it and was like, yes, I would like more info on kettlebell training. Let's do it. So it's not something my gym has right now, but I'm getting there. Right now, my concentration is on a combination of weights and cardio, and then I also usually do some other cardio activities during the week. So I have a personal trainer, which for me is extremely important. I work out with her twice a week, so we usually do an hour of lifting. Right now, we're doing sort of a build, so we're doing heavy lifting, which I love, and then I do usually 20 or 30 minutes of cardio right after that, so whether it's the treadmill or whatever. And then I usually try and do something on a daily basis, whether it's just a walk, whether it's a walking DVD, whether it's Zumba. I do a lot of stuff at home even. But I definitely really look forward to my workouts. I think doing something that you really like is important. Finding that thing, that fitness thing that you actually look forward to doing. And for me, that's actually weightlifting, which I wouldn't have thought would be what I like the most, but I really do. I was always a dancer, so I love Zumba and that sort of stuff as well, but I really like lifting weights. So kettlebells, I think, might be my future too.
Let me just say that makes you even more awesome than before, the fact that you love lifting heavy weights. So I just thought
Here we go.
Well, I think you also need to do what suits your body. And anyone who's seen me in person knows I'm not a small girl at all. I have a giant head. I have huge hands. I'm big. I've never been a petite little flower. And so, even when I reach a goal, no matter what, I would never be small. I have a strong, sturdy build. That's my cultural background. And so for me, being given that body, being given the more athletic body, I'm very muscular actually, and I build muscle really quickly. One of my trainers once said that she thought I could be a bodybuilder if I wanted to be, so interesting. But I don't know if that's what every girl wants to hear, but it was kind of cool. So for me, it's like working with what my body seems made to do. And so it doesn't surprise me in a way that I like lifting weights, because it really seems to be the kind of thing that my body was made for. And so maybe I'm not going to be a runner, and I'm maybe not going to be a dancer, but apparently I make a pretty good weightlifter. So
we have a comment from Mark, CKR Tom 2. Sarah, can you talk a little about how your food, your types and amounts has changed since starting your journey?
Oh, I wish, I honestly think if I could have taken photos of the kind of food and the amount of food I ate before surgery and after surgery, it would be shocker. there's a regret. I wish I had done that. I wish I had taken like a regular meal before surgery and after surgery and been like, yeah, this is it. Part of the reason that I got to 460 pounds is because I really liked food. And I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to, pretend there was like all these other things going on. I just really liked eating. I mean, and I had people in my life that were enablers. In my group of friends, we often joke that we should have our own show, and we would call it We Can Eat, because we could go out to dinner and someone would say, yeah, I'm kind of hungry. And it would be like 2 hours later. We'd all look at each other and go, yeah, I could eat. And then we'd go eat something else. And the eating thing became really social. We would, bring cupcakes, bring this, bring that. Kind of like when you have a work environment like that too, where you have all these enablers that want to keep, bringing tempting food. And again, in my group of friends, I mean, they can all eat. Like, they can all eat big portions. And some of them don't really have issues with their weight. But we have actually all lost weight in the last year for one reason or another, mostly because we've stopped enabling each other with food. But back to Mark's question specifically, let's say I was eating chicken wings, because that's like a good example that I can think of. Before surgery, I could probably eat, I don't know, 15 or 20 chicken wings, along with other things probably. Now I can eat 3 chicken wings. I don't eat chicken wings very often now, but that's a good example. 3 might even be pushing it, actually. It depends on how big they are. But 3 chicken wings is actually probably more satisfying to me now than 20 chicken wings would have been before surgery. So that is the blessing that this surgery has given me, is that restriction and that sense of fullness without the crazy overeating part of it.
That's good. We had a question from Michael VSG. He asked, how does your husband say you have changed the most?
I actually made a series of videos with him on my channel a while ago, and it's funny because there was a similar question to that, and he really didn't have an answer, because I think to him, obviously physically I've changed, but I ask him because I want to keep myself in check. I want to know that, I'm still the same person and I'm not changing in some negative way. And so I've asked him, do you think my personality has changed? Do you think the way I treat people has changed? Do you think the way I look at myself has changed? And for him, not to speak on his behalf, but he really doesn't have much to say about that. The physical changes obviously are, extreme. I'm even smaller now than when I met my husband, which was 14 years ago. And, everyday things, like when he gives me a hug, his arms actually go all the way around me, whereas before they would be lucky if they touched in the back. So stuff like that has definitely changed. But I guess the one thing that he said to me before is that he was actually surprised with my level of commitment and dedication and success, which I guess you could take in a negative way, and that maybe he thought I wasn't really going to be able to do it. But I think everybody has that fear. I don't think it's actually a judgment. I just think, I think my friends, my parents, my family, I think they all probably had that fear that I wouldn't be able to do it. And it surprised me to some degree too. So I think that has been a big change, because I can sometimes have issues with sticking to things and doing things that are difficult and having motivation. And so that's something I can say has changed. I think he would say that's changed too.
I'm glad you didn't take that as a negative when he said that.
I try not to.
Okay. There's a question from, and my feed is messing up again, so I'm going to skip around. Corey J. Cook says, do you think there will ever come a point where you don't think about the fact that you had surgery?
I hope so. I really do. I mean, I think the dream of every person who's overweight and who is on this journey is to just be able to live what they would consider to be a normal life, where you're not constantly thinking about food. And I don't mean in the sense of not being aware of what you're eating and what goes in your mouth, but just in not constantly being overly critical of everything or trying to pre-plan everything, and just being able to make good decisions without always having to go back to, okay, should I be eating this? And I don't know whether that will actually ever happen for me, but that's my goal. I would love to just be normal, as I like to say, in the sense of, you know, the people that I know that are what I would call a regular body weight. I think about one of my aunts has always been small, and I see her, you know, at birthday parties with the little tiny sliver of cake, and I see her only eating half of, you know, a portion that someone gives her at a dinner party. Or I see, and that's just how she lives her life, and that explains why she's the size that she is. But she does it without thinking. You know, she does yoga, she's active, she does all these things, and she doesn't have to think about them. That's just the way her life is. And so I would hope that I would reach a point where I don't have to be constantly thinking about the fact that I've had weight loss surgery and that I'm a weight loss surgery patient, and that I've been on this weight loss journey or maintenance journey or whatever it is. I hope there's a day that comes when it isn't as big a focus in my life as it is right now. But I know that right now, that's the way it needs to be.
It makes sense. I think a lot of us share that frustration of having to take up so much of our lives, so much of the planning. We have another question from Sanctity Rapture, similar to what she asked before, but she asked now, what's the single most important question a pre-op person should ask, and what's the most important piece of advice you would give to a new post-opper? I think the second part, you answered it a little earlier, but what would you say to someone who's going into surgery?
Honestly, the question that you need to ask yourself before you decide to have weight loss surgery, before you go into surgery, why did I get fat? To me, that is the most important question that you can ask yourself, because wrapped up in why and how you got to the point that you're at is how you need to solve that problem. So sometimes I'll have people ask me, what kind of surgery do you think I should have? Should I have a VSG like you did? Should I have this or that? And there's a whole bunch of things around that, but one of them is, how did you gain weight? If you were a binge eater, then VSG might work for you because suddenly you can't really binge anymore. But at the same time, if you were, you know, a carb addict and addicted to sweets and that sort of thing, then maybe gastric bypass is better for you, because then you're going to have that issue of dumping when you have too much sugar and all that sort of stuff. The mental part of it, though, is even more important. So if you don't figure out, and this is just my opinion, but if you don't figure out how and why you got to the point that you did, then I think you're doomed to repeat it, unfortunately, because you're not going to see the signs when you start reverting back to that old behavior. And I think everybody does it. It might happen quickly and it might happen slowly and insidiously, but I think everybody, that old fat girl or fat guy, starts coming back out. Those old behaviors and habits start coming back out. And if you don't understand and recognize that that's how you got to that place, then you start going back to that place again. And I mean, unfortunately, I've seen it with people I followed on YouTube. I've read it, on blogs. So to me, that's introspection, that looking inward and really being honest with yourself. And again, whether you need help doing that, if you need a support group, if you need therapy, there's no shame in that. You need to use whatever tools you have to get to the point where you are mentally ready and mentally healthy to take on this challenge, and it will make everything so much easier.
Okay. We are going to be running through some questions really quickly. Our time is almost up. So we'll try to do Rob's rendition of rapid fire. Okay. But Khalif's probably going to have to ask them all because my feed is all messed up. So, Khalif?
All right. Put me on the spot. Okay, now I have one. Okay, here we go. From Brooke, Crazy Running Mom. She asks, has your appearance or sense of style changed since you lost weight? And do you anticipate it changing, or are you always this cute?
I was always really into fashion and that sort of thing, and I never had that point where I let myself go, as some people talk about. Like, strangely enough, my self-esteem was always pretty good, considering the fact that, I weighed 400 pounds plus. So it has changed a little bit. I think I'm a little bit more daring in the colors that I wear, the things that I would wear, and hopefully that will continue. I like experimenting and having fun with fashion and clothes and jewelry and makeup and all that stuff. So. Okay,
Permission No More says, I know you talk about getting the girls done, But will you get the excessive skin removed when you reach close to what your goal is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have talked before about the most important thing to me is the boobalubas. That's important, and also important to my husband. The very first thing he said when I said I wanted to have weight loss surgery was, as long as you get your boobs fixed, it's fine. So it is important to me, but yeah, I would anticipate having multiple surgeries for excess skin removal as well.
Okay. From Zen Maiden 1 says, how have your friends, coworkers reacted to your loss thus far? Have you encountered any haters?
Surprisingly, if I have, they haven't made it obvious to me. So I've never had anyone say to me, oh, you had weight loss surgery, you took the easy way out, or, oh, well, why would you do something like that? The thing that I think most people question is the going to Mexico part of it. And that was before surgery. And I told very few people just because I didn't want to deal with that pre-surgery, having to explain the whole thing to everyone. So I actually kept that part of it sort of a secret from a lot of people. But I've been extremely lucky that, everyone has been very, very supportive. And I think part of that is because for some people who are smaller when they have their surgery, no matter how important it is that they lose that weight, they can have all kinds of health issues and comorbidities. People sometimes tend to question, well, why does so-and-so need weight loss surgery? When you're 250 pounds overweight, no one questions why you needed weight loss surgery. So I actually think that's part of it, to be honest, is everyone's like, good for you. You're getting healthier.
Makes sense.
All right. Time is up.
Okay. There's still a few more for you to answer.
There's just a couple more. And some of them might take longer than just a few seconds. So, Sarah will get back to you guys. She will answer the questions. She's going to go through and read all the comments from tonight. Sarah, thank you so much for coming. We're so sorry for all the difficulties that we had, but I'm so glad that we got to get you on and let you share your story. And I've learned so much from you and your videos and even tonight. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right.
All right, so not sure if she's completely gone.
There we go. Sorry. I'm running the show tonight, guys, and I'm not prepared. I don't know how to do all this stuff that Khalif usually does. So, next week, Khalif, who's going to be on?
Next week, which is the 21st of May, we're going to have Living Avalon, Amy, on, and I'm very excited about her. She has lost a tremendous amount of weight. She has a lot of enthusiasm and energy and excitement about the journey. She is very introspective as well. She's very open, so I know you guys are going to love her. So go subscribe to her now, check her out, and be ready next week.
Okay, and May 28th, the following week, we will have Justin from Conquering Myself 2013, and he will be here to share his journey. He's been through his little transformation that he did for 12 weeks, and he is about to be a father, and he started running recently. He has a lot going on in his life and his journey, and I am really excited to have him on the show. And then the following week, which is already June, I can't even believe it, June 4th, we will have Marissa from Half the Girl Mariss. And I believe she's from Indiana, which will make her cool anyway. And she has lost a significant amount of weight, and she is about to get married, and I'm excited to have her on the show as well. So thank you all for joining us tonight. Again, we apologize for all the technical difficulties, and Rob Reno, we missed you tonight, but hopefully you'll be back on next week with us, and we hope you all have a great night.
All right.